Добрый день, коллеги. У нас на сегодня действительно дипдайв в наш новый продукт, который мы представляем на рынке. Это компания SmartX. Разговор пойдет на английском языке. Соответственно, как сказал Дима, пишите в чат, мы с удовольствием ответим на ваши вопросы. На те вопросы, которые мы не сможем ответить, у нас будет пауза между презентацией и демонстрацией. Вот, ответим на них с удовольствием. Ну и опять же, после этого будет живое общение, которое, собственно, можем, тоже устроить сессию вопросов и ответов. Сама себе компания достаточно интересная. Всех призываю остаться до конца, посмотреть на демонстрацию, потому что look and feel интерфейса всегда очень полезно увидеть, узнать и посмотреть. Соответственно, компания представляет собой достаточно уникальное решение, которое, собственно говоря, увидите и ознакомитесь в ближайшие 2 часа. Соответственно, если никто не против, я перейду на английский и предоставлю слово нашим коллегам. Guys, I have a make a short introduction about what they can expect out from the presentation. So, Muyan, you can share the screen and start with the company presentation and technology representation. And I also say that we can translate from the English to the Russian and from the English to the English. Still not yet, we cannot translate to the Chinese yet, but we are going to this direction. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I will share my screen first.
Yeah, we see screen. Yep.
Okay, so if you cannot hear my voice or cannot see my screen, please let me know.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Okay. Good morning, fellows. Thank you for attending our webinar this morning on SmartX. My name is Mu Yuan, technical consultant over here from SmartX pre-sales team. We have a few core competencies that we like to focus on the webinar that we are holding today. So here is today's agenda. We have 3 parts in this presentation. Firstly, I will give a very brief introduction to the company. The next is the SmartX hyperconverged infrastructure solutions overview. In the last part, I will dive into the products a little bit more, focusing on the technical details. So, I'm sure most of you are hearing about SmartX for the first time. So my intention is to let you know what SmartX offers and how SmartX addresses IT challenges. And now, jumping into the part 1. SmartX was founded in 2013 as a dedicated HCI player and shipped their first hyperconverged product in 2016. After years of rapid growth, we are also moving towards the private cloud field. SmartX is known for its fully self-developed distributed block storage that is not based on any open source project like Ceph or the Guster FS. The full control of the code helps build a scalable, reliable, and easy to use computing and data infrastructure. And as of today, SmartX becomes the biggest challengers to the VMware and Nutanix. And we are already positioned at #1, the market share in the financial industry of China. And currently, we have hundreds of customers globally with more than 10,000 nodes deployed. And our vision is to make the IT simple. We create a scalable and easy-to-use compute data infrastructure to improve enterprise IT, allowing customers to focus on the applications and the innovations that drive business forward. And here is the SmartX footprint. This timeline demonstrates the company's progress in the product, market, and financing. So from the establishment of the company in 2013, the company has gone through multiple rounds of financing and the product line are consistently expanding. So currently, the most released is SmartX OS 5.0. SmartX has become one of the fastest growing IT company in China. And in the years of the hard work, SmartX has gained market recognition and the customer trust. The world's most authoritative IT research and rating organizations like Gartner, IDC, and TechTarget also give very positive review on the SmartX products. So here we just list some for your reference. You can also find more relevant information on our official website. And here is the SmartX portfolios. I will cover each one of these in a bit more details as the presentation continues. So as I mentioned before, we are not only a hyper-converged infrastructure player, we are also moving into private cloud. Therefore, our product line is also expanding according to the company strategy and the customer needs. SmartX ZBS is a foundational product that provides the distributed block storage service. And then the SmartX OS converges the storage and hypervisor to run any applications at any scale. And on the top is the cloud tower. This is a unified management platform that can manage multiple clusters across the whole data centers. IO Mesh is designed for the next generation platform that is deployed in the Kubernetes, providing persistent volume for the containers. And lastly is the AppRoot, which is a micro-segmentation product, act as a distributed firewall to reinforce the security for other virtual assets. And later on this year, we will gradually introduce the VPC, distributed file storage, and the advanced backup and disaster recovery products to fulfill customer needs of the private cloud. So as the business increasingly rely upon the technology to streamline processes, power insights, and accelerate efficiencies, the characteristics of the traditional three-tier architecture, such as dedicated hardware, siloed resources, and the separate management, has many limitations to deal with the rapid changes and the various requirements of most organizations. So those kind of limitations includes the complexity and the interoperability, heavy manual operations, poor scalability, and the high TCL, the total cost of ownership. And at the same time, a variety of workloads and the different platforms also brings challenges for the hardware selections and the architecture design. Therefore, the modern organizations are very urgent to have one infrastructure to fit all scenarios. Therefore, using software-defined approach to IT based on hyper-converged infrastructures, so companies are able to evolve legacy systems so they can operate more like a public cloud. In the SmartX HCI solution, the architecture is 100% distributed with no single point of failure. And the HCI consolidates servers, storage, the hypervisor, and some network functions into a software-centric solution deployed on the commodity hardware. And it collapses hardware silos and allows IT professionals to manage workloads using a single management interface. So as a fully integrated IT solution, so it eliminates the cost and the complexity of legacy data center technologies that are individually deployed and separately managed. The SmartX hyper-converged infrastructure has been built with a single cohesive software-defined stack that combines storage, computing, and networking with scale-out capabilities. In addition, the disaster recovery, the backup, and the micro-segmentation also can be added as extended features. One SmartX cluster starts from 3 nodes and can scale up to hundreds of nodes seamlessly. And here is the overview of the SmartX hyper-converged infrastructure. So on the top is the management console called Cloud Tower, which enables the user to easily operate and maintain multi-clusters in a single view. The second layer is the computing platform The SmartX for now supports major hypervisors, including VMware vSphere, Citrix Zen servers, as well as the native virtualization called ELF. The core component is the SmartX ZBS, distributed block storage. This guarantees the high performance, reliability, and availability of the whole cluster. This stack can be installed on almost any mainstream servers as long as the hardware specs meet our compatibility requirements list. And most importantly, the SmartX supports the heterogeneous hardware in one cluster. So you can put different brands of servers with different configurations in one cluster. So this gives our customers maximum flexibility. And this is a view of the deployment architecture. So all the servers are connected via 10 or 25 gigabyte switch to make up the cluster. And the SmartX HCI software is installed on the commodity hardware, which includes the storage pool and the computing platform. So customers' VMs are running on top of it. And the left side is SmartX running on ELF. The right-hand side is the SmartX OS running on the VMware. So almost the same architecture. For the server compatibility issues, SmartX supports a wide range of servers. Our hardware verification will be done to the server components and the firmware code level to support as many server models as possible. We have compiled the SmartX OS hardware compatibility list to provide users with a complete reference for the entire process, from hardware configuration to the capacity expansion selections, make it easier to configure hyperconverged clusters for our customers. And here is the examples of compatibility list for the Dell. You can see the items include the CPU, memory, the SSD, or GPU, boot drive, and so on. And compared with other HCI solutions, SmartX consumes the least resources, including the CPU and memory. So each node only costs 3 cores and 17 gigabytes memory. So this means the SmartX can provide more resources to the upper layer applications. Compared to the vSAN, it costs 32 gigabytes memory. And as we know, so trying to anticipate your organization's storage capacity and the performance needs over the next 3 to 5 years is nearly impossible to get right. So with hyperconverged infrastructure, it's not a problem. Here is one of our customers, leading security institutions in China. So you can see from 2017 to 2021, they expanded the clusters 8 times, and from 6 nodes to the 240 nodes with business growth. It scales incrementally and operates as a pay-as-you-go cost model. There is no one-time investment in advance, and you buy what you need for right now. In terms of deployment, the advantages of hyperconverged infrastructure are incomparable to traditional architectures. When the networking environment and hardware equipment are ready, so it only takes 3 hours to complete a 3-node cluster deployment. That gets your business go online very quickly. Oh, let me see. Someone is asking. Okay. And here are some common hyperconverged infrastructure use cases. So for example, the VDI, the desktop as a service, the edge or RBO computing, the server or data center consolidations, and enterprise applications such as Oracle database, ERP, and CRM. And of course, the most popular technologies, the Kubernetes and containers, is also suitable for the hyperconverged infrastructure. So now let's turn to the part 3, the product features. So in this session, we will go through SmartX ZBS, SmartX ELF, SmartX Everroot, and the Cloud Tower. And firstly, To be considered as a production-ready system, SmartX ZBS must provide features to protect any environment and support data recovery per business continuity plans. So from the data verification at the disk level, the replica technology at the node level, to the topology awareness at the rack level, and the active-active clustering and the replication at the data center level. SmartX ZBS provides different levels of data protection mechanism to effectively deal with any software and the hardware failures. The data checksum. So as we know, HDD is made of the magnetic medium. So the firmware bugs, abnormal power outages, and the ray interference may cause the bit flips. So for example, the 0 becomes 1 or the 1 becomes 0. And this kind of problem is called silent data corruption. Such failures will not cause I/O errors, so there is no effective way to detect it. And to prevent this failure from happening, the SmartX provides the data checksum to deal with it. The method we implemented is to store 512 bytes of verification information in every 8 kilobytes of data, and verify when reading the data. If the data is damaged, the data recovery will be triggered as soon as possible. The next level is the replica. So at the node level, we use replica technology to guarantee data redundancies. In short, the same data will be stored in 2 or 3 copies, and the multi-copies will be distributed on different nodes to ensure that even a single node failure, this will not cause the data loss. So when a single copy of data fails, the system will automatically trigger the recovery, and the copy is restored to other available nodes, which ensures the integrity and the reliability of the cluster data. The whole process does not require manual intervention, and it also does not need to prepare an independent hot spare disk. The data will be stored to the existing space in the cluster. And in one cluster, we can support different volume policies. For example, you can have business critical applications running on the 3 replicas, and another test VM can only have 2 replicas volumes. And for individual volumes, it can have an OS volume with 3 replicas and a data volume with replica as well. So it's very flexible, and to some extent, it saves capacity of the whole cluster. Topology awareness. In the real environment, so not only the nodes can physically fail, so the elements such as top of rack switches, the UPS power supplies also have the potential to fail. So the topology awareness of SmartX OS ensures that no data will be lost in the event of a total failure of any racks. The replica technology I mentioned just now only can ensure that copies are written to different nodes, so which makes it possible that all copies of data are allocated to the different nodes but on the same rack. So this means in the event of the rack power outages, all the copies of this data are inaccessible. So after enable the rack awareness, the SmartX OS will distribute copies of the data across different racks and hosts to ensure that in extreme cases, as the entire rack fails, we still have the entire copy of the data. So this function should be enabled after the cluster deployed. It's not configured as default. The auto detection and isolation of the abnormal disks. This mechanism is powered by the intelligent algorithm. The system will automatically detect and capture the I/O errors and the latency of each disk. The system will classify and prioritize the abnormal disks according to the captured data and correspond to different processing methods. So for example, if a disk with insufficient lifespan is detected, the system will fire an alarm and notify the user to replace it. But however, if an unhealthy disk is detected, the system will automatically isolate the disk to avoid more severe problems. An active cluster. So in the form of stretched clusters, one cluster is. So anybody has question? Okay, I will continue. So in the form of stretched clusters, one cluster is deployed into 2 data centers, which can provide computing and storage service independently. So this cluster is divided into the priority availability zone and the secondary availability zone. The data is written synchronously. So when one of the availability zone fails, the business can be quickly put up in the other availability zone. And the migration process is fully automated, which guarantees the business continuity. Our active cluster currently supports 2 platforms. The first one is SmartX ELF, and another one is VMware vSphere. And to use this function, we also require to deploy a witness node. This can be a virtual machine or physical machine, but should be deployed in the 3rd data center. And this active clusters is able to provide the nearly 0 RPO between the sites. And another advanced data protection feature of SmartX is to support replication between sites, which is also a native service and that does not rely on any third-party backup software. And then it's agentless. Replication enables the user to back up a group of virtual machines to 1 or more remote sites. So the replication uses a snapshot-based mechanism. The first backup is a full backup, and the subsequent backups are differential backups. So this will decrease the data transfer time. So one SmartX clusters can be used to run applications or only for replications. So here we have a site in Beijing, and we have another site in Shanghai. So those 2 sites can be executed the backup or replication mutually. And in terms of the performance, the SmartX use 4 technical means to maximize and the cluster performance. The first one is the fully distributed architecture. So compared to the traditional storage, its performance is limited by the controllers. However, so each SmartX node is a controller. So every time we're adding nodes, it's the equivalent to adding storage controllers. And the performance increases linearly with more capacity. In addition, so many storage engines are implemented on the top of file system. For example, the ext4, XFS, FATFS. But however, considering that the functions provided by the file system are far more than the requirements of a storage engine, so and this will generate some performance overhead. So when we design the storage engines, we did not based on any existing systems, file systems on Linux. Instead, our storage engine is built its own file system directly on the raw device, so that the entire I/O path is extremely optimized. And the second is the data locality. So this means a copy of the data will be always placed on the host where the virtual machine is located, so that the read request does not need to go through the network. The read requests will directly go through the bus, eliminating the performance overhead caused by network latency. The next one is auto-tiering of the hot and the cold data. In short, the random I/O will be written to the SSD first, because the IOPS of the SSD is relevant high, and at the same time, we use the RIU algorithm to ensure that the hot data we frequently access is always stored in the SSD. Cold data that is accessed infrequently will be written to the HDD to ensure performance while taking into account some costs. And we also support the all-flash mode, and the all-flash mode also supports the layering techniques. So the last one is the RDMA protocol and the boost model support. The RDMA technology enables data transfer control to offload from the CPU to the network card, thereby reducing the CPU workload and increasing the bandwidth. The boost model is powered by the vhost protocol. That storage can directly access the memory of the guest OS by passing the QEMU and the kernel, thus greatly improve the ability of I/O processing. Here are some statistics of a 3-node SmartX cluster performance test. So you may have a quick look at the reference. And on the left hand side is the enhanced model by enabling the boost model and the RDMA. And another one is a standard model with no boost model and the RDMA enabled. So for now, a question may raise. So any comparisons to the traditional centralized storage and other HCI vendors? In the next couple of slides, we will see the result. Okay, here, the HPE 3-part 8440 is the mid-range storage with dual controller. Under the 4K random array IO model, 8 SSDs. Here's 8 SSDs, only result 420K IOPS. And however, by adding 24 more SSDs, now we have 32 SSDs. The IOPS only increased by 1K. So the performance bottleneck is the controller. So it's unable to increase the performance by adding more capacities. All newly added SSDs are actually wasted. So by contrast, each hyperconverged infrastructure node is a controller. In performance and capacity grow linearly every time one node is added. So we can see here, a 3-node SmartX clusters with only 6 SSDs has a much better performance than the mid-range storage array. But yes, this is enhanced model by enabling the boost and the RDMA protocol. And compared to the global leader vSAN, the SmartX still shows the huge advantages. The blue represents the SmartX and the green represents the vSAN. Under the same hardware and under the same hardware configuration and test models, SmartX ZBS demonstrates better performance metrics in terms of IOPS and the bandwidth. And after we disable the GPU patch, the performance of SmartX even doubled to the vSAN. Oh, it seems stuck. Okay, sorry, it seems something wrong with my computer. So can anybody see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I will continue. Sorry about that. Sorry, it seems the problem happens again.
Something interesting, show it on your next slide. It means
yeah, I will come to the next slide. Yeah.
In meanwhile, I will just try to discuss a little bit several questions regarding pricing in the chat in Russian, if you don't mind. Ребят, там вот в часть по НФР программу, ценам и стоимости вопросики были, да, то есть я думаю, наш коммерческий блок с удовольствием на них ответит. Завтра возьмет это как домашнюю работу. Вот, по поводу стоимости и по поводу НФР программы. На текущий момент также были вопросы по поддержке и по качеству поддержки. Здесь могу сказать одно, то есть у нас достаточно большой обширный опыт работы с западными вендорами. В данном случае мы говорим про Китай. Соответственно, у нас мы как дистрибьютор SmartX представляем собой вторую линию поддержки, наши партнеры представляют первую. И, соответственно, как бы, то есть третью линию поддержки представляет сам SmartX. В принципе, это несмотря на то, что звучит это достаточно длинно, это не значит, что кейсы должны идти с L1, L2, L3, да, то есть или L3. То есть кейсы первого приоритета, во-первых, достаточно быстро попадают в L3, то есть они не задерживаются, не чейнятся, да, то есть мы как бы как со всеми вендорами договариваемся, то есть если речь идет о кейсе первого приоритета, то с уровня L1 сразу открывается прозрачный тикет на уровень L3, и мы все втроем, все три поддержки видим этот кейс и решаем его ASAP, да, то есть как только, как сразу, то есть с максимальным уровнем реагирования. С минимальными сроками. Если это, как работает вот это, это L3, это третий или четвертый, скажем так, уровень кейсов, соответственно, открывается сначала на уровне L1, L1 собирает вопрос, а это наши партнеры, наши интеграторы, вот, соответственно, если они могут ответить, они отвечают, если нет, они открывают кейс у нас, и мы, соответственно, уже совместно на эти вопросы отвечаем. Скорее всего, L3 или L4, они в большинстве случаев на этом деле и заканчиваются. Если это что-то связано с багом, либо с багом в документации, естественно, такой же кейс открывается и у SmartX, и мы, соответственно, трекаем для того, чтобы данный кейс был выполнен и так далее. То есть все это, опять же, выполняется в кейс-системах, это все как вы привыкли. То есть ничего нового в данном случае нет. So I a little bit describe it about the support because of it was concerned in the chat that HCI is always to be able to economically effective, to be economically effective for the many companies. HCI have to be, first of all, reliable and have good hardware specifications that possible change next day or faster, and also the good support needed. So I was explaining the L1, L2, L3 level model, where our partners use as a layer 1, we as layer 2, and layer 3 is the SmartX support team. And explain that for the cases that degrade system or make it not working, we expect transparency, and we will open the layer 1 case without delay through all this chain. So if you can add something more, Wesley, about the support, it will be good. While Miriam is trying to fix the presentation.
Okay, next, please. Sorry about that. I'll use Wesley's screen to continue the presentation.
Okay.
Yeah. Next, please.
Okay, it seems even mine has problem. Is this problem with this page, I think?
Yeah, same when we enter the presentation model, the application crashed.
Hang on, I'm sorry. Let me fix it now.
Maybe I use this way. I cannot.
Yeah, I cannot control my computer.
Okay, I'll continue. So under the 12-hour stress test, the SmartX is more stable and performance than the vSAN. So from the graph, we can see the vSAN shows the very iterative IOPS under the 12-hour stress test. Actually, after the cluster capacity usage reaches to the 80%, the vSAN drops a lot, but the SmartX ZBS remains the same level of performance. Okay, now let's turn to the SmartX scalability. The SmartX cluster starting with the minimum of 3 nodes, and there is no one-time investment in advance. So it's a truly pay-as-you-go cost model, so that the capacity can be gradually expanded according to the actual business growth. And SmartX cluster supports pods and node level expansion. So for example, you can either increase the RAM or the capacity for one node, or adding a new node to the clusters. After the expansion, the data will be automatically rebalanced without the manual intervention. Lastly, SmartX also supports the heterogeneous hardware in one cluster, so which means it can support servers of different brands and the different hardware configurations in the same clusters. So for instance, you can have both Intel Xeon Gold series CPU and the Xeon E5 CPU in one cluster without affecting VM lab migration. Now let's talk about the KVM-based virtualization, the ELF. As I mentioned before, so ELF is a KVM-based hypervisor built in the SmartX OS at no extra cost. So compared with the VMware vSphere, ELF is a lightweight virtualization platform, but it covers most of the common functions of daily operation, so such as the virtual machine lifecycle management, the cloning, the high availability, the monitoring, the VM template, resource online expansion, and the placement group. And because we believe those functions can meet the most of the daily needs of the business. At the end of the last year, nearly half of our customers choose ELF.
Ломалась презентация только что.
Nearly half of our customers choose ELF virtualization platform, and most of them were using the VMware previously. Along with the maturity of ELF, we can foresee that more users will use ELF as their first choice in the future. In the next couple of slides, I will choose some of the ELF features and introduce to you. So firstly, the users can deploy virtual machines in batches through the VM template. And the SmartX ELF service will automatically schedule the virtual machines to the appropriate hosts according to the resource usage of each host in order to ensure a balanced use of the resources. And currently, the ELF supports to create up to 10 VMs via template simultaneously. And in addition, we support the other virtualization management, such as the power management, the migration, the snapshots, and the volume level IOQS. So which means you can give a limitation of IO for each volume of one VM. So next one is the snapshot function. This is how SmartX differentiates from the other snapshot method. The snapshot provided by the SmartX OS is a copy on write snapshot, so which means that no actual data copying occurs when the snapshot is executed. So data writing occurs only when the data changes. This greatly improves the efficiencies of snapshot and saves disk space. And there is no dependencies between those snapshots. This means that if the previous snapshot is damaged, we can still recover the virtual machine through the subsequent snapshots with no data loss. And at the same time, we also support the snapshot plan. So customers can specify a schedule to automatically execute the snapshots for specified virtual machines for continuous protection. And this I will show you in the later demonstration session. And the virtual machine high availability ensures the business continuity. When the system detects node failure or storage network failure, the virtual machine HCI will be triggered automatically so that the VM will be reconstructed on the healthy nodes within 3 minutes. In terms of resource usage monitoring, the ELF provides a function of intelligent diagonals and the optimization. This helps customers to locate Zabin's VM, over-provisioned VMs, or long-term shutdown VMs. So the suggestion is based on a set of default rules. So for instance, the ELF defines a Zabin VM as a VM is powered on, but the total number of I/O per day in the last n days is less than m. Well, it also supports user-defined rules, so as to provide our administrators with great autonomy to avoid resource waste. And since SmartX version 5.0, the IOV function has been added. The physical NIC is virtualized into a virtual function and passed through to a VM. So by passing the kernel to directly operate the NIC to process the packets, so which greatly reduces network latency to the microseconds. The core hyperconverged solution will work across all the major hypervisors like VMware vSphere, Citrix Server. This will enable customers to choose the hypervisor they would like to run in their environment. So we give the very flexible choice to the customers. So customers can continue with the VMware or migrate to the ELF. So speaking of migrations, SmartX ELF also has a migration tool to help customer migrate VMs from the VMware to the ELF. It's an agentless independent tool that supports multi-OS migration, including the Windows, Linux, and other mainstream OS. You only need to shut down the virtual machines when the migration is nearly complete in order to finish the data synchronizations. This will minimize the business impact during the migration processes. And in the later release of the SmartX ELF, we will support to import other image format to the ELF platform, for example, the QCOW2 format. Now let's jump into the ISDN and the security product, the Everroot. Security is always considered to be one of the top IT concerns. The traditional perimeter firewall has a strong focus on the external security, but with little or no attention on the stopping threats inside the network. So once the perimeter was breached, the attackers would be able to move from server to server with essentially no security controls. Perimeter firewall natively has many limitations, such as no isolation within the VLAN, and the heavy manual operations when the network configuration changes, and the degraded network performance because the east-west traffic has to be redirected to the physical firewall devices. So all the traffic will go to that choke point. SmartX Everroot is designed to address those limitations. Everroot applies micro-segmentation technology based on the zero trust network model with no single point of failure and the performance bottleneck to secure the east-west communications. Zero trust is a more granular security model with the ability to tie security down to individual code and the ability to provision the policies automatically. Everroot is deployed independently and supports to set network security policies according to the VM labels. to ensure the security of the east-west traffic. So only the permitted traffic can be into or out of a VM or group of VMs. So it also supports to isolate abnormal VMs to prevent the cyber attacks from spreading inside the data centers. And most importantly, the security policies will remain persistency even when environment changes, such as virtual machine migration, the change of IP, the modification of VM labels, or the automatic HA failover. The security policies will follow the VM, no matter the environment changes. Here is an example of how Everett works. So security policy can be created based on the workload characteristics rather than the static properties such as the IP addresses, VM names, and the protocol. So we are all familiar with the three-tier application architecture. In this architecture, the virtual server can be labeled into three groups: the web service group, the application service group, and the database service group. So according to their characteristics, we define a list of rules that external traffic can only access the web service with port 443. And the web services can only access application service with allowed ports, and the application service can only access database service with allowed ports. So no matter a VM IP changes or migrates to another host, the VM will always follow the policy until the VM label changes. So this is how micro-segmentation or Everett works. It really decreases many the labor burdens of the IT professionals. Cloud Tower is the unified management web portal of the SmartX HCI. That makes the common workflows very simplified and enables users to easily operate multiple clusters with a single view. Cloud Tower is a user interface for the SmartX solutions that allows users to manage, configure, and monitor virtual resources in a simple way. One console for all infrastructures. The latest Cloud Tower release also provides many fancy features. So it supports VM live migration across clusters. The role-based access control allows the administrator to control over which user can perform specific actions on entities. And the content library functions provides a way to share a VM template and ISO images between the clusters. And the intelligent monitoring helps users to optimize resource usage. And as planned, the Cloud Tower will support backup VMs to the external storage array, maybe at the end of 2022. And to provide the better flexibility, Cloud Tower also provides the RESTful API interface and the command line tools. So our end users can use them to dock with third-party platform or to script routine tasks. The web management interface of SmartX is very simple and easy to use, which can provide users with an excellent human-computer interaction experience. And all the functions can be easily found through the navigation bars. I will demonstrate the interface in the next session. So with the ability to change your hypervisor from the ESXi to the ELF, the ability to build your own infrastructure based on the hardware that you need, and the ability to purchase the software independently from hardware, you really have ultimate flexibility in your operating environment. So SmartX solutions is all about choice across the entire spectrum. That is really what differentiates SmartX from other solutions out there in the market. So you can make the best choice for organizations. Well, in the last slide, let me summarize the SmartX solutions highlights. The advanced architectures, stable and reliable, no vendor lock-in, rich ecosystem, outstanding performance, and the intelligent maintenance. So that's all my presentation for today. So if you have any questions, yeah, please let me know.
Hello?
Okay, I will check the chat window.
Yeah. I will ask the questions based on the chat discussions. That kind of a lot of the questions comes regarding the first of all, maybe let's start from the down to top. First of all, regarding the ELF hypervisor, is it based on the KVM or is it completely not? Can you be more specific what the ELF hypervisor is?
Okay, I will try to answer the question first. Okay, I see a lot of questions here.
Do you hear me well?
Oh, they already answered, or sorry, because I don't know Russian, so.
No. I'm asking the questions from the chat. The main question here, and all others based on that. Is it ELF hypervisor? Is it KVM, or
yes,
can you KVM based? It's just. Can you compare them? What is the difference?
I believe for the competitive analyst will be addressed for tomorrow's session. So, but here I can see the KVM-based hypervisor actually has no big difference. So our advantage is the ZBS, the storage. So our core competitive is the distributed block storage. But for the KVM-based hypervisor, there's no big difference, to be honest.
Okay, then questions about the live migration, because of we understand that live migration in KVM is not so optimal. Let's be a little bit political here, but do you have the same problems as a KVM have with live migration?
Sorry, so what's the problem of the KVM-based migration?
It's not so live. It is a kind of not like ESXi do the live migration. That's the reason in the comparison.
Okay, so we test many times of the live migrations in our customers. So during the migration process, there is only one, maybe one packet loss during the process, during the migration. And the whole process will be completed within 3 minutes, and otherwise we found no problems. So sometimes we'll have one packet loss during that migration, and the business will continue. No problem. Yeah.
Okay. Regarding the snapshots mechanism, do you support redirect on write or copy on write?
It's a copy on write. We only support a copy on write.
But the certain concerns from the guys that copy on write have to have performance impact.
Actually, the copy on write has better performance than the redirect on write, because there is no actually data writing when the first snapshot is executed. Only when the data changes, the actual data will be written to the storage.
Okay. The question about regarding the migration, can we migrate VMs from the VMware if needed?
For the migration tool, we only support migrate from the VMware to the ELF and ELF to ELF, but the vice versa we don't support. We cannot migrate from ELF to the VMware. So it's only one-way migration.
From the VMware to ELF?
To ELF, yes, correct.
Thank you.
No problem.
But this is properties of the product already, or it is a service.
Yeah, yes, and in the future we will support the import functions, so you can have your own image, for example, QCOW tool or raw image, and we can use the import functions to import the image from the other KVM-based platform to the ELF.
But currently we support this inside of the product from the VMware.
Yeah.
Okay. Also a lot of questions about can we install the software from the existing hardware, of our customers, and a lot of other discussion in Russian it was. The question is, we will provide the hardware regarding the specification, because specification of the what the SmartX is using to run is really tough, with a certain Ethernet cards, with a certain HBA cards and others. So we will provide the hardware, and I believe the better explanation it will be in tomorrow meeting, on a tomorrow meeting, how to get that and what the possible options are.
Yeah, Murat, let me take this. Okay, so yeah, especially in the current under the current situation in Russia, we do working on some plans on our minimum configurations on the hardware for SmartX installations. Of course, you know, like we understand that, like, if we are trying to install on the existing hardware, then, you know, like, there must be a minimum requirement of like the CPU, the number of cores, and the SSD hard drive, and it comes to a NIC card and the GB card, like the fiber channel cards. So we will work with Factor Group, and then we will came up with a minimum requirements for those requirements, so that, like, even you have the existing hardware, they are able to install SmartX, and you guys can enjoy the HCI. We can discuss a little bit more tomorrow, but for a time being, yes, we are working on that. But of course, please understand that if you are using minimum requirement, then the performance and the size of the cluster, everything may be getting smaller, or, you know, like, maybe degraded. It all depends. So what we are trying to do now is to strike a balance and to came up with a minimum requirement list, that so more people can enjoy the software with your own hardware. Okay.
The next question, thank you for the additional explanation, Wesley. And yeah. The next questions, do you have live remote accessible demo zone for the partners? I believe we are working on that. Yeah.
We do, and actually, we and Factor Group also working on that. We do have a live remote accessible demo site for we call it online POC, but I guess, you know, for the time being, you know, like, because of the number of people trying to test worldwide, so we have to set up a schedule, and then, you know, things like that. But at the same time, Factor Group and us, we are working on another demo systems in order to serve the Russian crowd, because, like, the local support will be done by Factor Group.
Okay, the next question, a technical one. What happened if cache disk will fail? How much cache disk do you support?
For the general configuration, we have 2 cache disks, which means 2 SSDs. So if one failed, it will not affect the whole cluster. It will still work. But if 2 failed, the cluster will fail. And currently, we have support up to 8 SSDs in the one cluster, in one node. And we will, for the best practice, we will suggest to you the SSDs to the HDD around 10 to 20%, the proportion. That's a suggestion.
Okay, the next question from the Igor, how much people do you have in the support team? And I believe the answer from our side is enough for you, because of currently we have from the layer 1, layer 2, and layer 3 model, we have got a big number of partners who will cover all of the negotiation with the EU customers. And also we have got 5 people in a distributor for Factor Group to collect layer 2 cases. can reduce the headache from the vendor, and maybe you can be more descriptive for how many people you support. You have in a support team in the SmartX.
Yes, so the next question is, no matter how many clusters you have, so the cloud tower is interest to manage the infrastructure. We are a software company.
What will be if cloud tower will fail?
Yes, that's a good question. Cloud tower, how can I say? Because in our roadmap, we will make the cloud tower in the high availability model, but currently it's not. It's actually not. That's a good question. But cloud tower is actually a virtual machine, so we can deploy if the current one is failed, we can deploy a new one, but we will make it high availability in the future.
Okay.
Only from the migration tools, only from VMware to ELF and ELF to ELF.
So if no questions yet, we can. On the next question,
it's for both. The cache disk is for write and read. Both.
For the write and read. So maybe we can start show a little bit demo and then return back to the questions.
Okay, so let's maybe have a 2 minutes break or just continue the demonstration.
Yeah, you can just feel free to switch the screen, and we will be waiting you what you're doing.
Okay. Yeah, let's continue. It won't be long. So here's the login page of the cloud tower, and you can see currently we only support.
No, we don't see any. Just present. We see still presentation.
We're still seeing the presentation page.
Okay, I have. You mean okay? Let me share my screen. Sorry about that. So can you see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Okay. So here is the login. Yeah, here is the login page of the cloud tower. And then currently we only support the Chinese and English. Sorry about that. And let's log on.
Regarding the language, we are also working with localization of interface in parallel. So I believe it will be available soon in Russian.
Yeah, we can make a proposal for that. Okay, the cloud tower is a management platform to manage the SmartX hyper-converged infrastructure. So this enables the user to easily operate the multi-clusters spanning geographic regions. Now here's the main page of the cloud tower. So all the computing, storage, network resources can be managed in a unified manner. And the users do not need to log into the multiple consoles or switch between the consoles, because the one console for all infrastructure. So the administrators have the ability to manage, configure, and monitor all the resources of the organization in the real time. There is a drop-down menu in the upper left corner, so which shows the management modules of the cloud tower. So each module has a corresponding interface. So I will show you them one by one. So firstly is the cluster management module. Let's click the data center name. This is the Beijing. After entering this module, the users can clearly see the overall overview of the infrastructure in the organization. So which includes the data centers, and here data center Beijing, the clusters, and the nodes made up the cluster. The overview tab here so displays some views in a centralized manner, so corresponding to the alert information, the CPU memory usage, the storage capacity, and how many clusters in these centers, and also the virtual machine, the virtual machine status. So this can help the users to have an overall understanding of all infrastructure. So on the left side, we have an organization called SmartX Demo, and it has data center in Beijing, and one cluster called Demo deployed in that data centers. The VM panel here so lists all the VMs and the relevant information. This view also supports customization. So by clicking the small cube on the upper right, the users can make the customize the view. We can maybe to let them list the created time or the guest OS type, and so on. So it's totally flexible. When we select any virtual machines here, so a window will be popped up, appear on the right side of the interface. So common functions of the virtual machine, such as the power on, the power off, migrating, and the cloning, and also install VM tools could be manipulated here. In addition, the virtual machine configuration information and performance. Sorry, because this one is powered off, so there is no statistics for performance. And if you have any snapshot, they will be listed here. And then you also can give labels to the to each VM here. And now let's go to the monitoring tab. So this interface provides the rich monitoring and the analysis functions, so it can monitor multiple entities such as clusters, the virtual machines, storage, and also covering multiple metrics such as CPU usage and the storage related informations and the migration transfer rate. The monitoring analytics feature organizes and presents data in a view and the graphs. And before creating a monitor view, you need to we can have a new view of the monitoring by adding new graphs here. For example, we can choose the type, the result type is host, and we want to monitor the IOPS, right? And I choose the object node 1, 2, 3, the back. And I click create. Then the new view will be listed here. And we also can use the VM to create a VM template. After the VM template created, it will be shown here. And by using the VM template, we can create a VM or convert it to the VM. So currently, we support a maximum to create 10 VMs in a batch, and then we can give a test. Let's do it 8. Test the VM. Okay, you can see from here we have options, the auto scale to the appropriate host. So this auto schedule will be based on the resource usage of each node. So let's do this. And we all make it 4 vCPU on 8 GB. Okay, and then we keep the same and show. Yeah, we can see the 8 VMs are created. And it only takes, let's see, it only takes around 13 seconds. So it's pretty fast. And here we can also check the physical disk information. Here is all the disks in this clusters. And when you click one node, you can only choose the disks in that node. Here we can see we have 2 SSDs as cache disks and 4 HDD as capacity layer. And you can also, from the web console, you can also unmount the disk. It's very intuitive. And if you have new HDDs and plug into the server, you can just manually mount the disks into the cluster. Then here is a VM placement group. So this defines which VMs can run on a particular set of hosts, or defining what VMs shouldn't run together on the same host. Let's take an example. Create a placement group. We call it demo group. And for example, we use VM 01 and 02, and we choose must not place. To now place switch host, we choose maybe node 2 and create this policy. So which means the VM test VM 01 and 02 cannot be placed on the node 02. Let's test it. Okay, here is the test of VM 02. You can see currently it resides on the host 01. Let's do a migration now. And make it on, choose the node 02, migrate. Let's see what we have. Yeah.
We have got a question about the do you support DRS mechanism or something like that?
Oh no, the ELF currently does not support the DRS. And you can see here, it's migration field because the conflict with the placement group policies. And yes, and for the operation and maintenance, we provide the log collection functions. Here, it's just by one click, you can get every information we need if any problems happens. For example, we'll collect the log, and we can collect some hosts. Maybe we choose node 01, and it also supports to define the time range. We collect the past 6 hours and click create. See what happens.
Another question comes about the fault tolerance feature of firmware. Do you support some kind of fault tolerance?
Here is the status of the collection task, and here you can also see the progress. Yeah, and here is the rack configuration. This is for the topology awareness. So after we deploy the cluster, so we can make the topology configuration here. So this will make the copies to distribute to the different nodes and different racks. So make sure even if the whole racks failed, we will still have an entire copy of the data. And what else you want to check? Yeah, for the network, currently is the general. We have a VM network and the management network, and also storage network. So the storage network requires 10 gigabytes or higher switch, the Ethernet switch. But for the VM network or management network, the 1 gigabyte switch is enough. The other thing should be okay. Let's go to the next management module. Let's go to here. Sorry, I have to say the security and the network security is actually the macro segmentation of the SmartX. But however, this cluster, the underlying SmartX OS, the version is a little bit lower, so it's not compatible with macro segmentation. So maybe in the future, I will ask my colleague to upgrade and to install this. So this time I cannot show to demo how the macro segmentation works. So sorry about that. So let's continue. the next one is the alert module. So under this page displays the unresolved or resolved alerts and their accounts across the whole infrastructure. And we'll click the alerts that will show the information, for example, the cost. So what caused this information, and what's the impact, and what's the solution of it. And all the rules is predefined by the system, but it also allows our customers to give a customization to those rules. So for example, we take the advanced monitoring is not working as example. We can edit it. So currently the alert level is critical, but we can make it notice or information based on your needs. So it supports the rule customization. And next is the event module. So under the event module, so all the events are classified as the user event or the system event. The user event records all the actions performed by the users, while the system events only capture the events triggered by the system. So for example, if a node failure and the VM migration, which triggered the VM HCI, so this kind of event will be triggered, will be recorded under the system event. And this, all the event information allows administrator to trace the cost of any failures or other operations or management events. So it's just like event audit. The next one is the task module. So task is actually a subset of the event. So the tasks are those actions that need to be processed synchronously. So therefore, we make it independent from the events in order for our users to observe the progress, like which I showed you before. We can see the progress of cache log, or even when we migrate the VM, we also show the progress. So they have two interests. One is from the drop-down menu, another is from the main page. Click here. Let's do a migration and see the progress. Okay, this is currently is on the node 1. Let's migrate to node 3. Here we can see the progress until the task is complete. Okay, start. So next one I would like to show is the snapshot plan here. The snapshot plan provides a protection for the virtual machines by taking snapshots of selected virtual machines periodically. The snapshot data is stored. Yeah, any question? Okay, let me continue. The users can let's just do a demo here. Create snapshot, give the name, this tab, and we can choose which cluster. The currently we only have clusters. We call them demo, and then we can choose to back up the Windows 7 and the Windows Server. Okay, and currently the granularity is only for the virtual machine level. Currently, it's not support the volume level. So next, we can choose, for example, we can execute by week. So every Monday of the or maybe every Monday, or every Monday plus every Tuesday, every week, and execute at 6 p.m. And we can also choose any time. Maybe you just want to back up for this year, but next year you will have another plan. So we can also choose any time. And for the retention policy, it means so how many snapshots for each VMs you want to keep. So here we can choose 1 to 16 to make it 2 and create. Yeah, we have a new snapshot plan here. So it's kind of a backup, and helps you to protect your virtual machines continuously. But in the future, we will have an independent backup product. The next one is the resource optimization. The resource optimization, this helps customers to locate the ZABI VMs, over provisioned VMs or long-term shutdown VMs. So the platform provides a set of default rules. You can see here how we define the ZABI VMs. Past 30 days, count of rate and the write IO per day is less than 100, and the power state equals running, pausing, and unknown. And also the customers, we also allow customers to create their own rules to define the ZABI's VM. For example, we can make it maybe 20 days, or the maximum value is less than 50, whatever you want. So it supports the customization for the resource optimization module. Because in this cluster we have a very few VMs, so we don't have any suggestions for the ZABI VMs or any over or under provision VM here. So we just give a demonstration on these functions. Okay, the next one is the recycle bin. So the recycle bin adds an extra layer of the protection to the user's virtual machines. So for example, if a user deletes a virtual machine by mistake, the virtual machine will first move to here, and the user is able to recover the VM before the release date. So all the virtual machines in the recycle bins are displayed here, and you can also see a list of virtual machines be deleted by selecting different times. For example, it will be deleted within 30 days or 7 days or whatever. So you can see the detailed information. And in addition, it also shows here in free space. So also shows how many spaces will be released after the VM permanently deleted. And of course, the recycle bin rule can be customized here. We can disable or enable the recycle bin rule, and we can make the return days longer or maybe shorter. It's really based on our business needs. Yeah, here's the report module. Currently, so it only supports two kinds of reports. The one is the assets list, which contains all the managed physical or virtual resources. And the second one is the resource optimization list report. So this is a set of result of future resource optimizations. So we can configure schedule generation plan of the report. For example, for the asset list, we can configure regular generation plan here. And add a plan, and then we by week, maybe every Monday. And here you can see, so when this report plan will be executed. Here we can see is June 20th and June 27th. It's pretty easier to manage. The next module is the global configurations. In this configuration, so we can use to upgrade the software license, and you will know the license type or the serial number information. And here you can also change your organization name. Maybe we can change the factory group or whatever you want. And the SmartX cluster also supports the one-click cluster upgrade, and the upgrade with no downtime. So you can just upload the upgrade file here, and upgrade will be conducted one by one. So there's no downtime for the clusters. Here's the monitoring. This is related to the optimization, related to the resource optimization functions. So if you want to use this function, you have to deploy a virtual machine and to enable this function. And from here, we can see this virtual machine is actually listed here. It's called SmartX Advanced Monitoring. And it also supports the SMTP servers, and support the email alert and the user management. We just released the Cloud Tower 2.0 last week for that version, we can support role-based access control. But it's for our demo environment, the version is 1.9, so it's not supported the role-based access control. So after we upgrade this environment, so maybe later you can to play with it, and I'll provide you with the password and the account. And the SmartX also supports to installing and using the VM tools in some guest operating systems. So after installing the VM tools, the following functions can be supported. Let me show you one by one. Let's go to the VM. So here's the VM listed, but you can see for some of the VMs, we can see the IP addresses and the guest OS. So for those VMs which install the VM tools, so we can show the extra informations. And after installing the VM tools, we can also edit we can modify the configuration information of the guest operating system from the management console. For example, let me show you all this is. Can see VM tools? We can edit the host name, the DNS servers, and reset the NTP servers, or even reset the password of the given account. So if once the VM tools installed into the guest OS, it will have this kind of operations. For the VMs does not have the VM tools, you can see. Let me choose another one. The VM tools part is not even showing. Here we give, let's assign an IP address for this VM. See?
The question in context, what about on-demand live changing of the settings of the running VM?
Sorry, so what? I didn't get you. So what's the question?
Live changing of the parameters of running VM. Do you support the on-demand changes of these settings? Can you change settings for the live VM?
Change the settings? Yes, we can change the settings here. Yeah, you can see for the basic information, for example, the name, the description. Oh, you mean the configuration like CPU and memory? If we can change for the live VMs, right?
Igor, can you change? Can you describe?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Let's do a demo here. We make it 4 vCPUs and 8 gigabytes, and then we see. This is a live VM, and then you can see after maybe 10 seconds, it will be changed to the new status. Yeah, okay. And the VM test rate is successful. It's all online expansion. There's no VM shutdown. Yeah. And then we can test the create snapshot here. Yeah, we can see a snapshot, and the logic space is actually 0 because there's no data changed here. So that's why I say the copy on write snapshot is actually much more efficiency than the redirect on copy snapshot. After we create this snapshot, it only occupies 0 space. And then lastly, I would like to show you the fuzzy search and the filter functions. We just pick one snooze as an example. Take this as example. We can give you can see we already assign a label to this virtual machine. It's a department, and this is finance. Okay, let's do the filter. By click here, we can choose labels, and it will display all the labels you already have. So this time we choose department finance. The filter, Yeah, and this VM will be displayed here, and it also supports the fuzzy search. Let me show you what is this. Okay, so as you can see, we have many VMs. It started from test VM. Once you can see all the VMs name with the test will be displayed here. And we also have some VMs has the IP address. Let's test it. 192. Yes, here you can see. So the VM with IP address 1.2 or blah blah will be shown here. Yeah, and here the host tab shows all the host status, the healthy, the name, and how many HDD here, and how many SSD in this node. Okay, let me check if anything I lost. Yes, this is the label management. We can create labels based on your needs. Let's do it. Department. HR. Create. Yeah, we can manage all the labels from the label management module. So is there anything you want to test? I believe it's all for today's demonstration now. Yeah, here's one more thing is sightings. So this sighting is not a global sighting. It's only for the individual clusters. This, for example, the cluster basic information is called demo, and this cluster belongs to the Beijing data center, and you can create the other data center here. And software license, and we also support the SNMP configuration and the virtual VIP. DNS server, NTP, IPMI. Yeah, and here is the VM CPU compatibility. So as I introduced in the presentations, the SmartX clusters support the heterogeneous hardware. For example, you can have different series of CPU in one clusters. So if you have that kind of configurations, you have to make the compatible model for all the nodes in the cluster. Yeah, and the VM tools showed before. The high availability. By default, the high availability is enabled for the clusters. Yeah, so that's all for today's demonstration. If you have any questions, so let's discuss.
Yep, we're open for question now.
Let me check.
Regarding the questions, we have got additional questions about the for the tower. Do you plan 2-node cluster, or can you be more specific what the HA you are planning to do?
So you mean how many clusters can be managed, right?
Yeah, what type of the cluster will be? Is it 2-node cluster or 3-node cluster for the HA, for the tower, for the cloud tower?
So for so currently the cloud tower supports the ZBS, SmartX ZBS clusters. I mean only the storage cluster. Or they also can manage the ELF clusters like this one in the demo.
Yeah. But the question comes, what it will be supported? If you know that, what HA mode you are developing, is it will be required 3-node cluster or 2-node cluster? So kind of what the strategy is?
Okay, so there's no limitation about this. So how many nodes in the cluster is, it really depends on the software license. So no matter how many nodes in the clusters, the cloud tower can manage it. And that's a good question. Is we have different configuration of cloud towers. So let me show you something here.
But may I remind that our minimum configuration is 3 nodes.
Yeah, correct.
I saw the question there. So actually our minimum requirement is a 3-node cluster system. And we start from there. We do not deliver 2-node clusters at the start.
Thank you, Wesley. About the next question, do you have any data reducing systems like deduplications and compression or erasure recording?
You currently will support asynchronous replication between the sites. So if you, sorry, we can't demo here because it requires more clusters in the one cloud tower. So if one, I cannot demonstrate that replication functions here, but we support the replication between the sites. For example, if here, currently we only have a demo cluster, but once we added one more clusters, so those 2 clusters can be replicated mutually.
Yeah, but for the time being, we do not have the duplications. We have compressions for replications between clusters and manage under 2 cloud towers.
Yeah, it was just, first question was the management of the cloud tower and how the actually if Igor can just describe question more, because if I was just even lost between of the questions. And the last questions that Igor was asking is, do we have any data reduction systems like deduplication, compressions, or erasure coding?
So that's a good question. So currently, we don't support the data deduplication, and we also do not support the eraser coding, because the eraser coding will affect the performance very, very greatly to some great extent. So I don't think that will be on my on our roadmap. So, and I think that's so that's why we don't support the eraser coding. So it's
for
not
the compressions.
Deduplication we don't support yet.
Okay.
But for the backup product, maybe it will support, but I don't know. I will ask our product team, but I don't know. But for backup, it should support the deduplication.
Okay.
Yeah, but for the cluster, for the SmartX OS and for the ZBS, we don't support it right now.
Okay. We also have got a question about the do we have technology like VMware fault tolerance?
Fault tolerance, no. We have active cluster. It's equivalent, but actually different. So
okay.
as active clusters, we will have one cluster deployed in 2 data centers, and then once the primary availability zone filled, so the VMs could be quickly put up yet another availability zone. But that's a bit different from
and further, because like fault tolerance are not only applied, well, if you try to provide fault tolerance, you're not just a software fault tolerance. Well, because fault tolerance is 99.99, which means that even for hardware, there must be some fault tolerance hardware to be implemented. So, you know, like we try not to get into that. So no.
Okay. I think that we have got everything asked in the chat window. If I miss something, please repeat the question, please, and let's ask the questions. Igor is asking about the performance impact of the just one.
Okay, I see the question. Okay. So this no. So after one SSD field, it will have maybe 10 seconds the performance degraded, but after that 10 seconds the performance will remain the same. So even we only have one SSD in the clusters, there is no performance effect. But after 2 SSD field, the whole cluster will not running correctly. So one cache, no performance impact almost.
What will be if a disk fail?
Yes, or if one SSD fail, so there will be no big impact on the performance.
Okay. Additional questions, guys? If you want, you can ask in Russian. I will translate in English and backwards. So it seems we have got no questions. So if we have no questions, we can just say thank you for the Muyan and Wesley for great presentation and support during this presentation.
My pleasure. Thanks for your time. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
And thank you guys who is still with us. The 1 hour and 45 minutes.
Yep.
So thank you all and have a good day.
You too.
Thank you.